Hi, Brendan.
Hello.
My name is Finley, as you well know. And our first question for you is what initially drew you to the sports media industry? And secondly, has your perspective of being in the industry changed since you first started at Marist?
So what first drew me, when I was a freshman, this is just going way back, when I was a freshman at Loyola, I needed to do work study. And I knew I wanted to work in athletics, not for my life, but everything I've always done has been around sports. I played sports growing up. My dad was a sports writer. I've always been around sports. So looked at the athletic department's opportunities, and the spot in their communications office was open. So day before classes started freshman year, I went in there and said, I'm your guy. So that's where I got started. So I was a student worker for the position I am now for 4 years at Loyola. About sophomore, junior year, I was like, this is a pretty good gig.
Mm-hmm.
Can keep working in sports. So I geared my major towards it. Actually, I didn't gear my major, geared my minor towards it because I didn't have enough time. And then got an internship my first year out at Marist, and just kept working my way up. So I've always been around sports with my dad and playing sports through high school and college. But my dad being a sports writer, I was always around sports with him. So it's kind of where I found out about this position.
Nice.
Cool. So our second question, how would you describe the different atmospheres of colleges that you've been at from a sports perspective, starting at Marist and with that transition to a bigger school like Georgetown and now being at Delaware? How is the adjustment to the workload as well as the environment?
So, I mean, any school is going to be different. Ultimately, the work's the same. I'm doing media relations and social media stuff for athletic teams. It's who they're playing and the atmosphere and all that stuff. But departments are different, very, very different anywhere you go. Not necessarily good or bad, but at Marist, similar to Delaware, it's a mid-major school. It's a smaller mid-major school. And a lot of the people there, how they rely on is each department has 1 to 2 full-time people, and then it's interns right out of school. They can't afford to pay, so much smaller athletic department. So our sports information department there was 1 full-time person and 2 interns. I think they've since adjusted it differently. But so it was me and one other person who was in the same boat right out of school. He was a couple years older than me. And we had, I think, 20 sports or so between the 3 of us. So do the math, it was a great experience. I think I had 7 sports at one time, including their primary sport, their premier sport, which was women's basketball. So I was working 60, 70-hour weeks, barely getting paid. But I got a ton of experience that I'm very grateful for. I met some great people, and that helped me to realize this is something I want to continue doing, because I was still at the time where you're still trying to figure out what to do after college. And it helped me build up my resume to land a full-time job. Then going to Georgetown, obviously it's a bigger school. They just added their 30th sport a couple years ago. That was a difference maker. But you're going to a bigger department, a little more resources. So that, you got good and bad stuff there. Less sports to worry about, but, a little bit more demand. Loved my time there. Got to work at some of the bigger, Georgetown basketball is playing against some of the best competition in the country, so got to experience that. Our soccer team won national championships, so got to have fun with that. Even though I wasn't the primary contacts for that, but still got to be around it. And then coming here to Delaware, you hear student athletes say it, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on camera right now, but you hear student athletes say it, and I'll say it, this is one of the better resources. Yes, we're a mid-major, but the resources here are second to none at this level. And we have football players who have dropped down from the FBS level, and they say this is just as good. From a behind-the-scenes comms person standpoint, when we're fully staffed, we have 7 people. We had less than that at Georgetown for more sports. So the resources here are great. again, I'm doing the same kind of work, but it all depends on how the department allocates resources, and Delaware's great with that.
So this is kind of a personal question because we work together, and I have my picks for my content, but I know a lot of time and effort is put into your posts. What post or project this season deserves bragging from your side of it? What's your favorite?
You know, you kind of told me that was coming, and I'm trying to think. This probably isn't the best answer for your stuff, but they do blend together. Obviously, there are some that get the most things. I can't take credit for it because it was you, honestly, but the Johnny Buchanan one.
We got a game this week!
Was great because I work with Johnny a lot. I really like Johnny. I didn't do anything with that post. I take some credit because it's on the football accounts, even though it came from Cockpit and it was you doing it. That is one I love. Proud of, I can't claim it, so I can't be proud of it. I love it. Proud of, similar to the other one you did, I did with the football team, I did a favorite Halloween costume. It was also the first time I have worked in Premiere, clipping videos. That is something I'm very new at learning. Kind of go back to your previous question, the industry has changed a lot in terms of Instagram was not a thing when I started, or just learning. Twitter came out when I was in college, so we were just learning Twitter. Now it's TikTok, which I've never been on, all that stuff. But so
That'd be a whole different conversation.
That's a whole different thing. But I'm just learning how to do work with video. So I shot that, clipped it, even put in an image, and I was really proud of that. And it got a decent enough response on Instagram that I was happy with how much effort I had to put into it and how much response I got. So that was probably it.
All right, so the fourth question. Overall, what would you say is like the best part of what you do? And also the second part of that question is, what's the most challenging part of what you do?
It probably is going to be the same answer, but the best part is I'm working in college athletics. I'm working in sports. You know, from a very young age, you know, for a lot of people have the dream, you want to play at the highest level and all that stuff. And I realized pretty early on that that wasn't going to be a thing for me. You know, growing up playing ice hockey and baseball, there was no college offers coming or anything like that. So being able to continue to work in sports, even while I'm not playing it, and be around sports, you can't beat it. You know, and every day is different. I mean, yeah, you get into a routine with football being on Saturday. All right, this is what I got to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get ready for that. But everything is different. You know, you get to work a game day. No game day is going to be the same as next, just because of how the game goes. So it is great working in sports and having that. You're not sitting at a desk 9 to 5 every day. At the same time, that is probably the most challenging. Is not a 9 to 5 job. College sports is a lot on the weekends. You know, I'm leaving tomorrow for South Dakota State in December. It's not great. It's great that I'm going. It's a lot of fun. It's part of working athletics, and it's part of being different every day. But I'm gone. I will get back in the early morning hours of Sunday, and if we win, then I'm working on Sunday. So it's a lot of long hours, a lot of answering emails at 10 p.m., taking phone calls at 9 p.m. and hope. So, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, as Finn can attribute to. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people do to make a single game operate for any sport. That if we do it right, people don't know about. People don't know that we are doing that much work behind the scenes.
Lots of to-do lists.
Lots of to-do lists. I mean, in the playoffs, my to-do lists are taking up, for a single day, are taking up a full page.
It's every day. It's every week now.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. it can be exhausting at sometimes. And like right now, where we call this crossover season, so we have all of our fall sports still finishing up. Most of them are finished up by now, but like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, basketball's started. Our soccer teams were still playing, football was still going, volleyball was still going. So our fall and winter sports were overlapped.
Yeah.
Call it crossover season. And the same will come again in February, when winter sports are wrapping up and spring sports are starting. So it's just a very hard time. A lot of long hours, a lot of phone calls, emails, texts. So challenging, but again,
Fair for it.
working in college athletics. So
Also, just a quick follow up though too. You said you played baseball and hockey, right?
Mhm.
Growing up. Is those the sports you want to work in? Or?
not necessarily. As I'm the head football guy here, I played 1 year of football growing up. It did not go well. So I mean, not necessarily do I want is football my favorite sport to work with. I was a baseball contact for 8 years at Georgetown. That is a very long season.
Yeah.
You know, you are starting Valentine's Day weekend and you're going through Memorial Day, if not longer.
Okay.
So that is by far the longest season, baseball, of any college sport. Maybe basketball if you make the longest run possible, but baseball is just, if you make it to your conference tournament, you're in Memorial Day. So I loved most of it. Now that I've kind of gotten older and I have a family and I don't necessarily want to be traveling every weekend, then I don't want to. And hockey is the same way. They start in September and they go to April. And I've never actually worked a hockey game, just because the colleges I've worked at don't have a hockey team. I love to watch hockey. I don't know about working it, but I love playing and I love to watch it. It's my favorite sport.
So our final question, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the sport media / communications industry?
This is something I tell a lot of people, especially interns or work for me or just younger people in the industry, is be a sponge. It is a very big thing to be able to just soak in as much knowledge as possible. I'm still doing it to this day. When I was younger, and I still do it, I would look at how other schools and other SIDs and people in my position are handling situations. I talk to people, I ask questions. You know, how did you do this? What were you? Why did you do this, or stuff like that? You know, as bad as it is, you know, sometimes my responsibility is handling those not great situations that you see on the news. You know, a coach with a scandal or something like that. What I do is I go see how things were handled from the PR side, because if God forbid I have to handle something like that, I want to know how others were handled it. You know, was it well received publicly? You know, what was the reason behind it? Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, but even other things, good things as well. You know, when a team wins a championship, what is the coverage that the other schools have done for a championship team? You know, I've looked at this week, we're playing the #1 team in the country. Last time someone beat the #1 team in the country, how, you know, in other sports, how was an upset of this magnitude handled in terms of coverage? What are some ideas we can get to be able to maximize our coverage? You know, the person who I worked for at Loyola, he was in my position there. He's higher ranking than I am now, but I still talk to him. He's still a mentor for me. I was an 18-year-old student for him. And 15 years later, I talked to him 2 weeks ago. I'm probably gonna talk to him later this week about some other stuff, just picking his brain about things. And just, so to go back to your question, just being a sponge is just soaking up as much knowledge as possible, adapting other things. The great thing is at this level, copy and paste is not a terrible thing. It's not frowned upon like it is in school. So almost all ideas at this level are taken or adapted from other things that have been done by other people.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Is
Brandon.
that it?
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Stay warm this weekend.
Yeah.